Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night to everyone's out there, depending on where you are in the world. I just love having people all over the world, both hemispheres. I don't know how many time zones we've got out there, probably 4 or 5 time zones at least. And this is Alex Glassey, and I am joined by Stephanie Garczynski. She's on here. We'll bring her on in just a sec. This is BusinessPRO TV. This is episode 12. And as we talked about, as we said last time, we are going to go on hiatus after this one, give people a chance to absorb all the material, give people a chance to really work hard between now and December 31st. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is exactly what you're going to do between now and December 31st. And it'll give us a chance to take all these comments and feedback and some of the other good stuff that we've been learning and rethink the back half of BusinessPRO TV. So many things we've had to learn. All right, what I wanted to do is to start us off. I normally go to a picture, and we pause there for a sec. But what I'd like to do this time, I kind of got that twitchy mouse. What I'd like to do this time is cut to a video, and let's do this. All right, so I'm thinking about you while we're watching this video. It's 1 minute long.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
All right, I love that ad. That's an ad that was created by Steve Jobs after he was fired from Apple and then came back. He was about 8 weeks in, and he really wanted to just reset Apple and reset, starting from the who and the why. What are we on about? All the things that we've been talking about in the first 3 or 4 episodes. And so we had that commissioned, that ad right there is not the official ad that was actually released, because the studio asked him to do the voiceover, and he just did not want to do it. He said, "It's not about me, it's about Apple." And but they did convince him to come in, and he was very irritated with them, and he sat down and he did one pass, and they caught the audio of that, and so that is a pre-release version of the ad. So that is that Steve Jobs voice. I love that ad because it reminds me of the people like all of you that I get a chance to spend time with and work with every day of my life. Every day of my life, I get a chance to work with creative and courageous people, and I think that you are the people that ad speaks to. You're the ones that go out there, you take your courage, you take your creativity, you create community, and you're absolutely not about the status quo. So I salute you, and I thank you all for being here over the last 11 episodes, and again today. And let's just take a second and pat ourselves all on the back for doing the hard work of business ownership that is at the core, at the heart of all of our communities. So let's take a minute and just be thankful. All right, that is that's a start of this. We are going to rattle through this. Let me put the deck up here. We're going to rattle through this. I'm going to bring Stephanie on. Where are you, Stephanie? You are somewhere out there.
I am.
Hey, there you are. Good to see your smiling face.
Absolutely. You too. I love that video. Thank you so much. And that perfectly articulates why I'm here too. So I won't go on. You touched on it perfectly, but thank you for that. That is so inspiring. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome. And in particular, because it's got Steve Jobs' voice there. I mean, he's one of my three heroes.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. So that I'm going to put that in my little toolkit and put it on my phone to remind me. So.
Awesome. All right. So what we're going to do, Steph, you and I are going to we're going to put up this deck here, and we're going to rattle through a little bit of the voyage that has taken us from episode 1 to episode 11, and then we're going to tie it off with a bow. We got some more material just to tie it off today, and make sure that people are all prepped and ready to go, launched towards December 31st. So without further ado, hey, if you're watching this right now, live on YouTube Live, why don't you come and join us where the real party is, which is at f2f.live/AlexG. You can join us on the chat. You can join us on the video at the end of the show. We'd be delighted to see you. And yeah, so that's where we're at right now. Let's keep going. We have the power. We all have the power. This is the theme of these 12 episodes, that as business owners, we have the signing authority. We have the votes. We have everything we need in order to design the business that we want. And in fact, we have the responsibility to do that because nobody else is going to do it for us. We can't just sit there and expect that because we started a business, we've got some customers, or whatever the definition of business owner is, that the world is just going to say, hey, good job. Here's the living that you want. And you and your family want, and life is just going to unfold the way it unfolds. No, in fact, we are oftentimes rudely shocked by the additional things that we have to learn and do just in order to be a business owner. A business owner is an entire new skill set on top of whatever skill set we bring to the table. So that's a theme here. We have the authority, we have the responsibility, we have the power, and now we have the skills. We started off, today agenda, we're going to go through, going to complete the pricing. We're going to finish off the pricing. We're going to update our strategic roadmap back from episode 5. We'll drag that thing up out of the drawer wherever it's hiding. We're going to update that, and we're going to prepare a 91-day plan, and then we're going to show you where to go from here, where to go from today, how to get to December 31st, and then where we're going to go from December 31st. We started off here, everyone, or almost everyone, feeling unsatisfied with sales, unsatisfied with margin, just unsatisfied with so many things. And even though we were unsatisfied, we didn't have a well-defined focus for the next 3 to 12 months. We didn't have a roadmap for the next 3 to 6 months. We don't have this stuff, then we're totally lost. We are simply a little bobbing cork in the middle of the big ocean, and we are subject to whatever comes our way. We are not in charge. We are not taking control, and we're going to join, if we don't look after these things, we're going to join the 60 or 70 or 80, pick your percentage of business owners that end up hanging up the shingle unsuccessfully. And all the people here, you've made that commitment to not continue to be that. You've made that, and that's what we want to achieve by the end of this session. Because what we promised you is some transformation, not only transformation in the business itself, but I believe that transformation in yourself personally. As an individual, I hope that these 12 episodes will help you to grow, to feel more confident, feel more knowledgeable, feel more skilled, and really feel that you are in charge of the business. You are the business owner. We started off by looking at the peril of traditional business thinking. All that crap that you can see on the internet and you see at a lot of these courses out there, they teach you to look at the business, your business, a particular way. And I basically said, now that stuff does not work because it will end up putting us in a transaction box, squeezing the life out of our business. And what happens in the transaction box is we take our eye off the customer. We start to look beside ourselves to our competitors. We start to match them for their features and their services and their price. And all of a sudden, we look exactly like them. And as soon as we look exactly like them, we are in a world of hurt. We've taken our eye off our customer, which is our breadwinning source, and we are now in a fierce price competition, because when we look like everyone else, the only thing left to change is price. And the way out of that is to lift our chin, is to pause what we're doing, lift our chin, and look up at our customer's aspiration. Get in beside our customer. Let's start to talk to our customer about their future, their issues, their hopes, their dreams, and if we understand that, and if we're speaking the language of that, that is the start of getting out of the transaction box. And we left at the end of episode 2 with the first bit of homework, which is to say, finish off one sentence. We want to become at the in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. We then went on to business strategy, which is all about making you and your family wealthier by creating, strengthening, and defending your firm's unique attributes. And unique was the key word there. And we had a whole episode where we talked about innovation and how innovation is that magic ingredient that helps you to continue to be unique in the minds of your customer. And out of that flows the wealth that we hope will come our way. We took a look at several examples, and my favorite of which is Terry Smith's business, Boyd Auto Body, where Terry was in the business, or went into the business of fixing people's cars, but he really wasn't in the business of fixing people's cars. He was in the business of getting into the minds and the hearts of his customers, understanding their issues, their fears, what made them uncomfortable, and he took all that stuff away so that he could put a smile on the face of all of the customers that he knew were scared to go anywhere else to get their business fixed, and in fact, their car fixed. And in fact, when he innovated in his business, he barely innovated on the actual nuts and bolts of fixing the car. He innovated all around his customer's aspiration, how to make that customer more comfortable. So that's where we left you at the end of episode 3, to think about your customer's aspirations and then ask yourself how you could change your products, services, processes, anything that you had control over. How could we adjust them to support them better? And I think that's when you started to flip open that notebook and started to write down all kinds of notes and ideas. And we're going to take those notes and ideas and we're going to revisit them again today. Then we walked into a dual kind of twin session in episode 4, where we looked at the business model, which is a way of understanding in short form how your business makes money. It goes to the core of almost every business, and it also introduces a couple of key metrics that most business owners really need to understand. And if you don't understand, if none of these work, there's a couple of others. So that was the introduction there to the business model. How you doing? You keeping up? This is a ton of work. We covered a ton of ground here.
I've already wanted to interject 10 times, but I know that this is our summer, so I'm saving it till the end. But I think the big thing is that it's great to recap, because it's a ton of work, and now everybody has the beauty of going back and really sitting with this and doing it methodically for them. Wow. But amazing framework. Everybody needs to know this stuff. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, I now understand why some people are like, "Hang on, it's a fire hose, man. It's just there's too much coming out. We need a hiatus."
But the thing is, and you say that, and it's very true. The thing about all this stuff, even freezing on this screen, somebody that came along right now would go, "What the heck are they talking about?" But the thing is, this is the stuff that deters us from building our businesses and doing it properly. And we've broken it down into such easy chunks. And that's why we're here on the back end to help you guys forward. But it's there. If you can just sit and muster through that fear, you've got all the tools right here. It's amazing. It's amazing. So great for everybody. Let's keep going. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Just one last note to pick up on that particular theme, and that is, I'm starting, as everyone knows, to get deeply involved in another business, and we do exactly this. This is exactly the process. This is not like, I'm not a university prof. This is what I hate about some of the teachers out there. I'm not just a university prof that just teaches something out of a 1950s or 1980s or even a 2005 textbook. This stuff is deeply rooted in, and this has come out of my own experience, out of creating 5 other businesses, watching hundreds and hundreds of my clients and several thousand other businesses go through their own planning and their own thinking and their own growth. And when we're now in it face to face, we live this stuff. There isn't a day that I'm not reaching into this material and bringing up something, and we're sitting down and going over it. This is right. And you've heard me talk about face to face and how we're actually, preemptively, designing our business model and our technology in order to, compete. And this is the stuff. So.
Yeah, it's really a gift for all of us to be able to hear as you talk about it too, to see all the modules implemented in an actual live example as you're doing it from obviously somebody that also understands and can readily use it instead of like us on the back end going through it and trying to learn it at the same time. So it's a gift to be peripheral to watching you build F2F. And I think the big thing about this is the fact that, this is fundamental material, everybody. This is not something that Alex and I have pulled out of the air that is new to business. The roots of business, if you have the option and the guts to learn them, they're there. They're there for everybody. It's just who of those of us, of the dreamers and the doers and the game changers, are going to dig in and do it. And you've highlighted all that for everybody, and myself included, guys, because I got to go back and study too. So, thank you for building it the way that you have and making it, bringing those roots up, keeping them planted, but allowing us to also grow our own seeds from all of this that you've created.
Let's go. Let's keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. Then at the end of episode 4, we got our crayon box out, which I just loved. I love doing this. I really love doing this. I do this all the time in my head. And then I bring out the document. And again, face to face, we did this a ton of different times. I just basically went back through some of my StratPad stuff. I've got apps out there. I've got software out there. Over the last 3 to 4 months, I've redone some of this for StratPad, redone my pricing. I will tell you that I've got an app in the App Store that the revenue in October, because of some of the pieces here, my revenue is more than twice what it has been at any time in the last 2 years, simply by reconnecting with some of the assumptions that I had forgotten about with my own customers. So this business canvas is profound. And there are other business canvases out there. Any one of them are useful. I think I like this one a great deal because it's much simpler. It's much more, easier to, much more approachable. Okay, we got to keep going. I don't want to reteach all that stuff. Then, so we got our little star up in that corner, which is the strategic, which is our aspiration. And then we started to talk about a strategic roadmap. Yeah. That's 5 years out or 10 years out. But what do I got to do today and over the next kind of couple of months? And that's what a strategic roadmap does. It starts with a strategic goal that contemplates uniqueness. It has a time frame. It has a context. It has a measurable goal. And we put that, we then put some activity around it in order to drive for that 91-day plan. And it looks like this. This is what a strategic roadmap looks like. We're going to revisit this again, but we left you at the end of, I think, episode 5 with the ability for you to go download this and go start to fill it out. Go put in your aspiration here, go put in your strategic focus. And then I gave you these first 4 as just places to start. And we're going to expand on that again today. And I hope again, go find this, drag it up, because we're going to revisit this. And then, my goodness, we went up the ladder. You guys have seen all this before, so I'm going to rattle through it. But again, this is a ladder. Again, I want you to put your feet on these rungs and use them to climb up the ladder to value pricing, right? We calculated our prices properly. We took a look at our competitors. We stepped on our competitors' heads and used them to vault up into the minds of our customers. We started to look at our customers' willingness to pay, which we know isn't a horizontal line, but it's a line that looks like that. And we then knew that the customer's willingness to pay changes because of context. Even within a space of 30 seconds, a customer's willingness to pay can change, and it can change markedly through all kinds of things. We then took a look at that gap between the cost of our product and the customer's willingness. So I'll get you in just a step. I see you going up. The gap between the
it works, guys.
Yeah. And the customer's willingness to pay. And what I tried to get to, the thought that I tried to get into your heads last time was, listen, there's lots of room there. there's lots of room for us to set our price so that it is fair to both of us. And we don't have to be constantly thinking about, well, is my customer going to like this or not? They'll let them figure that out. They'll tell us whether they like it or not. But what we can do is just relax a little bit, because now we understand that we are delivering value. Now we know that we are delivering value. So we can set our price fairly, knowing that when the customer agrees to purchase, that they are going to be making, in their minds, a profit. They're not going to spend money with you unless they're getting more in return. And we got our price. So this is win-win. That's what I'm trying to deliver here. Yeah, Steph,
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this has made all the difference to me, and this is what I've been taught in any business course that I've ever taken. But nobody's come at it this way. And since applying this even to ice cream or whatever else, you've helped me raise the bar. And not only that, I feel a lot better because I know I'm confident about this. My customers feel that I'm confident, and it raises the bar for our entire interaction. And it's been amazing to watch that play out. So I can't emphasize this, just people go with your gut and work on that gut and that confidence side of things. But this willingness to pay, it's amazing how, as you and I talked about earlier today, raising the bar and changing the game sometimes feels a little bit uncomfortable, especially in pricing.
Of course it does.
Go for it.
Yeah, we saw Brenda last after hours. I don't know if for everyone who was around last episode and then stayed. That's where some of the greatest stuff happens, right? We had someone in Northwest Territories, Brenda Dragon, who's saying, you know what, I've been agonizing over this and I feel guilty and I feel pressure and stress. And yet I did raise my prices and now I'm on a road trip to go visit my retailers and talk about prices, right? But by raising her prices, she's done a whole lot of good for herself. And again, she hasn't raised it too high, but she has raised it. And that extra margin is just going to fall right to her bottom line, right to her gross margin, and allow her to do all kinds of good things. So,
and I mean, the thing is, you can also bank on, like we've talked about here, the customer's willingness to pay. You also know that they're going to give you feedback. If your prices are too high, I mean, you can have your confidence skyrocketing. And if you raise them up, I know that when I first started, I was afraid of raising them, so I kept them low. I felt like I was giving away value. It wasn't an even exchange. Then I raised them so high, and I got feedback on the other side that I wasn't fully in integrity with that high price. I lowered them a little bit. That's been the sweet spot. But I'm still up there in that willingness to pay area where it's amazing. The magic is happening. So, be open to the feedback because people will pay. People want what you have to give.
Yeah. And
don't worry about putting that foot down, even though it feels a little uncomfortable.
And we'll talk again today about it. It's just not a matter of just cranking your prices up. There are a variety of ways that we have been talking about to package things and offer things in different ways that make it look that we're being actually more reasonable than by just having a single price. Which makes it easier. It makes that a human exchange. As we talk about prices easier.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, let's keep rolling. Lots there, but it's win-win. This is win-win, and
again. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. Anybody, if you have any questions, any of this information comes up, save it till the end because we'd love to hear any of your comments about this too.
Awesome. What we're trying to do here is, again, we want to ensure that we measure the value we get with an appropriate output metric. So we talked about some businesses, in particular businesses that sell, that are service-based and sell by the hour, how they sell by the hour, but they also track their internals costs by the hour. And what that does is it causes this conflict between revenue, which wants to go up, but drags up their costs. And the cost, we try to get more efficient, pulling down, but that drags down, because they're linked, we're using the same number, that drags down our revenue. So what we need to get out of the way of ourselves, and we need to understand that the value we deliver, we want that to be in lockstep with the value that we get. And then we want to disengage the value that we get from our cost to deliver. In other words, so that we can get as efficient as we possibly can. That is a whole other discussion that doesn't have anything to do with the price that we set. It has nothing to do with the conversations that we have with our customer, and less than that same efficiency. It allows us to better serve the customer in some way. And so, again, deliver increased value, oftentimes increased efficiency does deliver increased value, and we should get paid for that, right? So appropriate output metrics to track our revenue and our gross margin, and appropriate input metrics to track our cost of goods sold and some of those other things. Because ultimately, there is this. Ron Baker is one of the godfathers of value pricing for the service industry. And I saw this quote a couple of years back, and I really like it. There is nobility in earning what you are worth.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
So much. It really, even with everything that we've covered, this really speaks to the heart of it. If there's nothing else that you've grasped, really just try to pay attention to that, because that's really about what we're talking about here. You're putting your gifts into the world, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
And so how do you put a price on you? Well, you can't really, but you can kind of put a price on your product or service, and that's kind of the same thing. Yeah. So
the other thing that, I always, when I take a look at a quote like this, what's the opposite? Well, there is no nobility. There is no nobility in scraping and scrimping and starving to death, right? Or having the business starve to death. There's no nobility there. What are we doing? We're sacrificing ourselves on an altar for somebody else's profit, right? All we're doing is we're just giving, that we're taking that buyer profit and seller profit, and we're simply adjusting it negatively, against it. We're actually working against us. We have the control. We have the ability to create the business that we, design the business that we want, and that's well within our control.
I think a big thing about that as well, only just a smaller comment, is something that's been brought up across my business plate this week is selling versus enrolling. And what I like about this, and selling, yes, we all sell, we either sell product or service. But in this case, when you go back and you take that affirmation or that aspiration statement that you've created, when we even talked about the Simon Sinek Golden Circle, and you go back through that exercise and you come back to something like this, nobility can be exchanged for your aspiration or affirmation, or like I always call it my why statement. So when I go back here and I look at this, and if I compare what I'm doing to my why and my reason for doing what I'm doing, then inherently my worth comes through, and inherently the pricing is natural. And, it's not an effort, it's not a stretch, and it doesn't ding my confidence or my esteem. So that's what I see in that statement. And that's why I said, I really love that statement.
Yeah, me too. All right, then we kept rolling forward. Oh, no, now I think, where are we? Yeah. So we're now rolling forward. Now we're going to update our strategic roadmap. So that thing that you put together or saw in episode 5, hopefully you scratched some notes on there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to update it. And we're going to update it, before I get into the next busy slide, I'm sure that you've got all kinds of notes and stuff. And if you haven't got notes on paper, which I really, really hope you have done, but there's a bunch of stuff buzzing around in your head. And again, I fill one of these books. It looks like this. I fill a notebook like this every single month at least, from all kinds of ideas and concepts and thoughts, and I just write it all down. And sometimes it goes somewhere and sometimes it doesn't, but man, it gets full of this stuff. And the problem, of course, is organizing all this stuff. So what we want you to do now is to take all those notes. I'm going to show you how to organize them in a way and get them onto this one piece of paper, the strategic roadmap, and that we're going to live with for the next 2 months and a bit, right? 2 months and 5 days till December 31st. And so I showed you this screen back in, I can't remember when now, but just I think it was episode 9 or 10, where I said we were talking about value. We had the persona, and we're talking about context. And what I ended up with here was saying, hey, out of all this stuff, I wanted to do these 2 things down at the bottom. And the first is I want to review and confirm the costs for all my products and services. But the second thing is to create new cash flow course. I want to create a new cash flow course for English-speaking business owners. I want to market through email and Facebook, and I want to create live and video options. I want to create a list price, and I want to create 3 payment options. So that was those are the 2 things I wanted to do. Now, so I've got this piece of scrap paper that I'm writing all this stuff on. Now, what do I do with it? Well, there's several things you can do with it. The first is just to simply pull it out, get a fresh piece of paper, and take that first item. I want to review, confirm costs for all of my products and services, and just put down the things that flow out of that. I want to raise my prices, make them higher than my floor price. Right? I want to really make sure that that's done. And then, and then I want to learn that pricing spreadsheet, because man, that thing looked magnificent. What a great tool that was. And then on the creating new cash flow course for English business owners, I want to add a course. I want to add a marketing campaign, an email campaign, and I want to expand a Facebook campaign. So if you just do this, then that's awesome. But now what we want to do is we want to take those things and we want to put them somewhere. Well, and we want to put them on our strategic roadmap. So let's go to our strategic roadmap, and you can see all I've done is I've simply taken those two lists and I've put them here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where to put each of these individual items. Well, raising my prices so that I make sure that they're above my floor price. That could be improving revenue, could be improving gross margin. So that's what I do. I just go through and I just say, well, learning price sheet, that could be somewhere underneath this improving leadership column. Anyway, I go through these 5 things, whatever my notes are, and I see if I can fit them in to the strategic roadmap that Glassey gave me back in episode 5. He just gave me a standard template. And if you just do that, awesome. You've updated your spreadsheet or your roadmap. You've got some clearly defined things that are underneath a column that makes sense. And as you know, all of these columns, because of this triangle, all these things are there to support the strategic focus and our aspirational direction. Okay? If you just do that, awesomeness. However, there's another way to do it, maybe even better. Okay? And because sometimes these things, they don't naturally fit into one of these other columns, right? And so now, didn't I have them logically grouped already? Well, sure I did, right? I had them logically grouped back here. So why don't I just take those 2 things and do this? Just create another whole column, right? So I'm not restricted to 4 columns. And I'm not restricted to like using this one just because Glassey said that, so, right? I can use anything. So let's create another one. Oh, look, it's got a little goal there. I want to, review, confirm, and here's the tasks that are underneath it. And all I have to do, if I do this, which is I think better than the first method of just pulling things apart, they're logically grouped. All I have to do now is to make sure that this supports this. If I have gone through all, my canvas, and if I've gone through that other worksheet and I have found that this seems to make sense based on all that, great. I'm going to put it up on my strategic roadmap. First of all, you're pretty much 90%. If you follow that along, you're pretty much 90% sure that whatever you put on here is going to support your strategic focus. But you want to double check it, because if it doesn't, then we got a problem. This either is a good reminder, oh, you know what? We shouldn't be doing that because it doesn't support anything. That's a real good reminder. Or, you know what? Our strategic focus maybe wasn't broad enough, or maybe wasn't sharp enough, or maybe wasn't well enough defined. And so it gives us an opportunity to refine this thing. And that's what's on paper. You can change things, right? This is the second thing that I want to do. And if you do this, then you're awesome. You really are awesome. And you're away to the races. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you one more tip that I think really, really reinforces this and really locks it in. And that is this. What we want to do is I want to talk just briefly about targets and responsibility. Targets help you to know when you're getting there or not, right? So it's great to say, let's get in the car and drive, but it's better to say, let's get in the car and drive to the store, because a bunch of things happen. First of all, now we're both on the same page. Now we have a shared direction, but also it allows us to check and assess our progress along the way. Hey, This isn't the way to the store. Oh, well, which store did you mean? Oh, I meant that store. Oh, well, you're absolutely right. Or, oh, you know what? I don't actually know which way to the store. And so I was just driving. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So the target sets a direction. That direction is going to be leading us to our overarching strategic goal. Our overarching strategic goal is leading to our aspiration. And each of these smaller targets also gives us the opportunity to check and assess our progress along the way. That's the first thing. The second thing is responsibility. Someone needs to be responsible for getting us to the store. Otherwise, it's, I thought you were getting to the store. Well, no. I thought you were getting to the store. Oh, man. That's why every one of these things we put on there, we can strengthen that sheet by simply doing this. We can say, well, who is going to confirm that the prices that we've got are greater than the floor prices? Well, it's Alex. Right? There's the responsibility, and there's the target. The target can be as simply as setting a date, October 15th. Who's going to learn the pricing spreadsheet? Well, Sam's going to do that by October 7th, and so on and so forth, right? Now here what we're doing is we've got the person responsible, and we've got a target date, but down here I've added some other things. There's some key metrics. You know what? All of this stuff, the Creating New Cash Flow course for English business owners should increase my revenue by $1,000 by October 31st. Now we've got a really, really sharply defined success metric. Well, if we get to $1,000 or more, that's awesome. We've accomplished our objectives. If we haven't, it's not that it's a failure. It's an opportunity to learn and examine. But what we can also do is on the way to October 31st, well, I should have made that December 31st, right, to give us some time. But anyway, on the way to the particular date, you know, if we watch our sales going, we know, it doesn't look as if we're going to make it. It allows us to take corrective action. It allows us to then add into the marketing piece, or, you know, do a special, do a sale, do something like that in order to get our revenue to that particular number. Another metric, number of customers. I want to increase the number of customers by 100. That's actually really why I'm doing this, because I want to increase the number of people that are aware of who we are and what we're doing, right? And I'm going to be responsible for that, and I'm going to do that by October 31st. And again, this is a customer satisfaction score. We got to remember that it's no good just selling a bunch of stuff and cranking out a bunch of customers. We need to make sure that our customer satisfaction rate is really high. There's a lesson here for setting targets, and that is they are incredibly powerful. That's the first thing. They are incredibly powerful when you share a target with your team. We are all like just heat-seeking missiles. As long as when there's a patch of heat out there, we humans will drive for it. And I've told a couple of stories about my career, how I learned that as a young business owner, and it's as true today. It's even more true today, right? The only caution is, with great power comes great caution, comes great responsibility, is you better make sure that the goal that you're setting is the right one. Okay? If you've got and I've managed sales teams for ages. I love sales guys, can't do without them, but I'm telling you that if you go into a sales meeting and you tell your sales team, ladies and gentlemen, we got to increase our revenue by 40% next month, they will increase your revenue. I tell you they will. But what they'll do is they'll slash and burn prices. They'll tell lies. They'll overpromise. They'll do whatever they can because you've given them a goal. And they are just heat-seeking missiles. They're going to get there. But what did that do? What did that do to your customer satisfaction? Okay, it absolutely blew it up. And that's a real reason why we want to take these things and put them against all these projects or all these logically grouped sets of tasks and activities. We want to put them all on this strategic roadmap, because it means that the salespeople who are over here, sales teams over here, need to make sure, they need to understand that they also are contributing to the medium and long-term goals of the corporation. They can't just blow it up by sacrificing margin and by sacrificing our integrity in order to get sales. And if you, by the way, if you're dealing with an organization and you feel some of this stuff, you now will understand why. You'll have some insight into why. It's because there's a misalignment between your aspiration, the organization's aspiration, the organization's strategic focus, and or some of the short-term goals. Somewhere in there, there's a misstep. There's a misconnect, and there's powerful, powerful stuff that is palpably felt by every one of us. Did that come across okay, Steph?
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, you can't have one without the other if you want to have a successful business, and I think it's perfectly said. And I've done that. I mean, you're right. Measurable targets are super important, and executing is super important, but not at the expense of obviously your customer base. I'm watching a lot of companies around me right now, especially in my industry, the food industry, do exactly what you're saying not to do. And it's incredible to see their credibility just tank very, very quickly, where social media outrage, and lack of support. And we don't want that.
The social media community can rise up, destroy you in
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Less than 5 minutes.
Yeah. So if you do this, then what we end up with is this, again, one piece of paper. Hey, maybe it's 2 pieces of paper. And again, if you use something like StratPad, it automatically, you can do this in StratPad, and it automatically then creates that second page for you. Just expand your spreadsheet if you're using a spreadsheet. If you're doing it on paper, bigger piece of paper. But what we get is, on one kind of space, just a reminder for ourselves. I would never put this in a drawer. This should be taped to the top of your desk. This should be hung up on a wall. But I need to look at this thing every day to remind myself, because in the heat of the day, in the heat of all the other stuff that's coming at me and all the pressures, it's sometimes easy to forget some of these things, right? So I need to remind myself. The second thing is, there's nothing on here that's secret, that can't be shared with our team. And in fact, you want to develop this with your team. If you're a sole practitioner, fair enough. But if you've got even a partner, in face-to-face, there's 3 co-founders, and we got another small team of people that are starting to build around us, and we're sharing this stuff with them. In fact, we'll share it with you next week if you're interested. We'll share some of this stuff with you, because it helps to create alignment amongst the whole team. Now, not only do we all know where we're going in 10 years, and we're all going in 3 months, but now I actually know myself. I see my name showing up at several points on this thing. I know what I'm responsible for. I know what I've got to hit and by when. And finally, what it does is it is a wicked management tool, because it allows me every week to pull this thing out and sit down there and say, hey, Steph, it says here that you were going to learn the pricing spreadsheet, and by 2 days from now, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm on that. I got it booked and penciled, and so I'm good to go. Awesome. Hey, Steph, and look at next week, right? Hey, Steph, it says here you were supposed to have done that 5 days ago. How do you go? Well, you know what? Just doing that, just weekly face-to-face meetings, weekly face-to-face meetings with staff. Once everyone has seen what their goals are, what they're responsible for against the backdrop along with everybody else, it creates teamwork, it creates responsibility, and you can't hide. If you do nothing else but this, from a management perspective, not in the pricing stuff, but just from a management perspective, you do this, you're miles ahead, absolutely miles ahead. Yeah.
And if you were to create one too, I mean, you had said that you're willing to share it with everybody, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I know that there's a couple companies that I follow specifically inside and outside my food industry that do open up their books per se, or their tools, let's say, for further transparency. And I mean, it's just revolutionary to see the companies that are willing to share the team building, accountability structure that they have in place, but also to enroll all of us in their aspiration, in their strategic focus, in their satisfaction plan and their leadership plan. And it helps us also continue that aspiration into our own little communities, and say, that's why, going back to your Apple example, let's say I don't love my iPhone right now, but I do love Apple products, and I've enrolled my dad in getting a Mac, and I talk about people that have, Android devices. come over to the Mac side, you know, it's the same thing. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. And it creates this deep, deep authenticity. I mean, authenticity and the trust that our community has with us, whether it's staff. Yeah. Remember, our community starts with staff, right? It starts with our management team, our partners. Starts with it goes on to staff. If your staff don't believe this stuff, if they don't believe this authenticity, I used to have a call center of 60 people. They're the ones that are talking to my customers day in, day out, hundreds and hundreds of calls every day. Are you kidding me? Like, if I'm the only one that believes this stuff and is authentic, then I'm lost. The company is lost. But if my staff believe that stuff, and if they're part of it and they're speaking authentically, that transmits all the way from me in the senior management all the way through into 2 layers of management, supervisory, and then call center staff all the way up to customers.
Exactly, and it comes. I mean, you know, and for everybody, you know, that may be questioning opening up something like this, it directly funnels right back into improving your revenue and improving your profit. Yeah. Because the more that you keep this sort of almost like a circle with everything, and you keep it going, and you keep it sharing, and you keep it open and transparent, it will funnel everything, and everybody, like you said, everybody becomes a missile for you, whether they're on the payroll or they're not. Yeah. Yeah. I had a staff who used to make ice cream for me. All she had to do all day long was make ice cream, but she believed in it. I enrolled her in the focus. We talked about everything, why we do what we do, how she could be a leader in our kitchen. I caught her one day speaking to our building janitor, and it was she shared all of this stuff. Yep. And he ended up being one of our best in-house little customers. So you never know. And he talked about us to his family. So, you know, I really love this plan, and I think that if everybody can fill it out, and share it and continue to share it and team build, there you go. Yep, perfect. It's a great story. Hey, Tom, I noticed you're saying, Tom, your brother Tom down in Texas. I think I saw you. You say audio is in and out. Is that mine, or is it Steph's, or is it both? And I'm going to keep going while you're typing. Yep. Both. Oh. There we go. Both. Both. Maybe try refreshing your browser. I don't know. I'm not going to refresh browser right now. Not yours. No, them. Yeah, they may try to refresh their browser. I'm not sure what I can do about it right now. Maybe I'll speak loudly and directly. When someone starts talking, it cuts it out until it corrects itself. Okay, so maybe what we need to do is just me. I need to do more. When I'm talking, when I'm monologuing, does it sound okay? When I'm monologuing, does it sound okay? Okay, so when I'm monologuing, it sounds okay. Guess what, Steph? Got it. I'm going to be monologuing. Okay, thanks for letting us know, guys. That's good to know. All right, and we're almost near the end anyway. So, okay, here's what you need to do in order to do all this stuff. You start off, as we started off episodes ago, thinking things through deeply, aspirationally, strategically, innovatively, thinking about your customer, thinking about from your customer's perspective, all hard things, and yet all critically important. Jot down your ideas. I know you've been doing this, and I love the fact that you're doing this. Then start to organize them logically. Organize them either by revenue, or organized by project, or by person, or by department, or it doesn't matter how you organize it, just so long as it's organized, and see how it fits then onto your strategic roadmap. It's either going to fit beautifully and logically and nicely, or it's not going to fit. And if it doesn't fit, then you have to make an adjustment. Once it's on there and you've got this sheet, now what you've got to do, you're going to manage it closely. And that's what I want to talk about next. All right. That's what I call Plan 91. I'm not a good branding guy. You know, I got a good friend of mine, Mark Stoiber. He's been on here before. He may be on here right now. He and I have talked back and forth. I think we're having lunch next Friday to talk about some of this stuff. I'm not a good branding guy, but this is a concept that I had put together a couple of years ago, and that is to live your life in 91-day bursts. So why 91? Well, 91 days from start to finish is the perfect length of time to start something and to get traction. If it's too short, if it's just 30 days, you're Stoiber
So there's Mark on the chat there. Ka-ching. Yeah. And by the way, I want to talk a bit more about, maybe you come in at the end, Mark, if you don't mind. And I want to talk about some of the stuff that you're doing, which I think is relevant to this audience. So we'll be opening up the mic in about 10 minutes. At any rate, 91 days from start to finish. It's long enough to get traction. So you can actually start a new initiative or a new project, and you can work it for 3 months and a day, 3 months, and you get traction. If it's 30 days, it's too short. And what ends up happening is that people start something and then it falls away. Start something and then it falls away. It becomes flavor of the month. If you are managing on a monthly project length cycle, then it becomes flavor of the month. But if you're really trying to make substantive change, then you need at least 91 days to do that. Okay? So 91 days. Much longer, what ends up happening is people's attention drift. If you get to 6 months, hey, we're going to make some fundamental change here, and we're going to set a goal that a year from now, we're going to be way better than we are now. It's really hard to keep people on that for the next 365 days. So 91 days is perfect, okay? I think that's what all I want to say about that slide. 91 days happens to beautifully be 3 months in duration. So it aligns perfectly with traditional monthly accounting cycles, which means that if part of what you're assessing is any kind of financial improvement, and fundamentally that's what you should be doing, then what it allows you to do is to take whatever subordinate metrics you've got, like number of customers or number of transactions, and it allows you to then make sure that those support your overall financial goals of revenue or margin or profitability or whatever, right? And so if you've got these aligned on a 91-day schedule, start here. You can be tracking your progress on a monthly basis and along with your financial statements, okay? So it aligns beautifully with traditional monthly accounting cycles. If you're a restaurant or some business that has what they call 13 periods a year, like if you're on 4-week months, you can adjust this slightly. The principle is the same, but now you're going to be on a 12-week cycle, okay? 91 days is also, do the math, perfectly, exactly 13 weeks. It's exactly 13 weeks. Now, why is this important? Because it supports the weekly team rhythms. It means that you can set a Monday, all hands meeting or a Friday status meeting or something like that. So you've got this short-term follow-up and accountability. They know, your staff knows that you're going to be walking in there with that damn strategic roadmap, and they're going to be asking me about my targets and the things that I'm responsible for. I then better make sure that what that does is it crystallizes and sharpens everyone's thinking about the things that they're going to be asked about the following Monday. I'm telling you it does that, right? If you don't ask someone about something, if you say, hey, Steph, I want you to do this and you're responsible, and then you never follow up, guess what? That thing drifts off into space. That is gone, right? It's gone. And we get subject to the exigency of the day. I love that word. So what it also does, what 13 weeks also does, is it gives us 12 weeks to run really, really hard. And you put your head down and you just dig your tunnel because you've set a direction, you know where you got to go, you dig your tunnel as hard as you can. And then what you do in the 13th week, you pop your head up and you look around and you bring up, again, your strategic roadmap, you make adjustments, you celebrate your wins, you mourn your losses, you make adjustments, you update that, and you set another 91-day goal, and then you make course corrections if you have to, and then you put your head down and you dig that hole. And you don't worry about things. You don't worry about long-term direction. You don't worry about medium-term direction. All you worry about is executing on those tasks and those short-term day, week, 2-week, 3-week things that you've put into that particular schedule. Does that make sense? I hope it naturally makes sense. And what ends up happening is that you get these happens to fit perfectly into 1 year, except for 1 day, and you can have that day off. Okay, you have my permission to take that day off. But this is 4 exact 91-day periods in a year, and if you do this I guarantee you that at the end of 2018, when you look back at where you started, where you were on October the 26th, 2017, you will not recognize your business. You will be profoundly improved, even if you're feeling guilty about putting up prices. You're feeling uncomfortable about making these changes. You know that the conversations you got to have with some customers because they don't like you, that's a tough thing to do. You know that some of those customers that you do like, you actually don't want to change anything because they, right? All this stuff's going on, but you know that you got to shake all these trees a little bit, right? And if you just make little changes here, little changes there, little changes there, what ends up happening is that a year from now, or by December 31st, 2018, your business will be profoundly changed. And you too will be profoundly changed, because just as an increased level of confidence helps you make some of these harder decisions, the fact is that even if you only make some of the smaller decisions, those end up increasing your level of confidence in yourself and in your staff and in your business. Okay, so this is a beautiful, virtuous circle. All you have to do is just get out that strategic roadmap, start to make a few of these goals, and then exercise it. I have seen this work astoundingly well, not only for my own businesses, but for many, many, many other businesses. And in fact, we have one of the people in the audience, I don't know if you're in the audience tonight, but one of the people in the audience came into the after hours 2 or 3 episodes ago, and a bookkeeper, and said, my bookkeeping practice is profoundly changed because I listened to the advice and the pricing course that she took with me a year and a half ago. And what I did was these things. I adjusted my offerings, right? I added a little here, another offering, and I made a little one here, like differing them. I adjusted my pricing and my packages, right? So I went away from this hourly billing thing, and I created other options and gave people not just here it is, take it or leave it, but here are 3 options: upfront, 6 month, 12, whatever. I don't exactly know what she's done. She adjusted her clients. And I've heard this oftentimes. I mean, there's one person, one bookkeeper who I think it was during BusinessPRO TV, said, I have 20 clients and I fired one, right? Or I refused to take on that $20 an hour new client. Well, what does that do? What that does is it opens up space for you to fill with someone that actually allows you to have win-win. If you look around your clients and you've got a bunch of win-lose where they're winning and you're losing, then you're in the wrong place. And so but we have the power to change the place that we're at. So one by one, you go after each of your clients and you give them an offer that they can't refuse, right? Here's the new service offerings. Pick one. Oh, you don't want one of those? Guess what? Then you just self-selected not to be a customer of mine. I wish you well. See you later. And that's exactly what this bookkeeper done as well. Fired a couple of clients, leaves room for a bunch of better clients because she's now got these packages. And then finally, this bookkeeper also, over the course of that year, adjusted staff and technology, right? There's some staff that maybe couldn't do the work or for whatever reason, adjusted staff and technology because she would now feel free to work on the efficiency part of her business. I'm going to say that again. She now felt free to work on the efficiency part of her business. And in so doing, tripled her revenue by just spreading out the effectiveness, the stuff that she's delivering, and the efficiency part of her practice. She was able to triple her profitability in the space of 12 months, in the space of 4 91-day periods. Okay? So, yeah, and Leanna's kicking in here. 1 day is to kick someone to the curb if they have not paid. Quarterly billing. What is it? 1 day to kick someone to the curb if they have not paid, but I bill up front, so that never happens anymore. Yeah. So Leanna and I, part of the pricing course for bookkeepers is we talk about you don't bill people afterwards and then have to wait 30 days until they pay. What you do is you bill people beforehand because you got them on this monthly thing. So you're actually saving 30 days worth of cash flow, which is what we talk about in the cash flow course, which is going to be later. All right. Let me keep going. I think I've hammered that one to death. And we're going to get into the final wrap up here. What you now should have are some new skills. Again, I don't expect you to be an expert, but I expect you to have some new skills, a couple of new ways of thinking, a couple of new tools, particularly the pricing spreadsheet, but also you've got Canvas, you've got a business model. There's a number of tools that you've now got, and you've got this roadmap. And those tools, I believe, we believe, are enough to have you get on the road to self-transformation. If I had a magic wand, I'd absolutely wave it. But I think what's happening is that Steph and I have been sitting here waving our magic wands as powerfully and as well as we can over the last 6 weeks. And now it's up to you to take these skills, take these tools, put them on a roadmap, and start to transform your business over the course of the next, between now and December 31st. And a big part of that is to understand that you're going to exercise these tools, and you're going to come up with a plan for 2018. Well, for at least the next quarter in 2018, that's going to lead you to this aspirational direction that you have in mind for your business. And I think as you go through this, what you'll find is that this journey is absolutely an extraordinary human experience. And you will be transforming yourself along the way. And that is our wish. That is our wish for you. All right. Anything to add to that, Steph?
No, I'm just trying not to cut you out, but I think that it's perfect. Everything you've said is perfect, and I think that we have given enough of a beautiful base for everybody to dig in and to really. You're right, and I love the way that you said that. It's an intensely human experience, but it is such a necessary experience. And I think that this is a beautiful launching platform for whatever you want, but finding the structure will be so fulfilling for everybody if you can just dig in and get over those hurdles if you hit them.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next? So we talked about we talked about this, making this the last episode for a bit. So what's next? Well, let's show you what's next. So here's my slide. What's next? The first thing is there's going to be a final survey. Now you've seen a bunch of surveys from me, but I set up one at the very beginning. I would very much like all of you to take it only take 2-3 minutes, 3-4 minutes. This is incredibly important for Steph and I to get some of this stuff back. We want to get better at what we do, and we want to hear what you have to say. And it's only in this way that we can get and understand the aspirations of our customers, you, our community. And so I really invite you to spend 2, 3, 4 minutes on that final survey. Appreciate that. We're going on a little hiatus right now, and that's going to give us, it's going to give you an opportunity to absorb and go back through some of the videos and just get ready for the start of 2018. We'll be learning some stuff, and once we've done that learning, we'll let you know about what the next step is, but that'll probably be in the new year. I don't think we're going to do anything between now and then, although I have some resources I'll probably share with you. I have them already, and I'll share with you ahead of time. But yeah, we're going to go on a hiatus. There are resources. BusinessPRO TV is a little out of date. One of my technology vendors changed a bunch of stuff. And so we've got to spend some time to update it, but all the resources for all 12 episodes will be at BusinessPRO TV. And the good news is you won't have to re-enter your email address every single time that you go. So that'll be a good thing. October 31st. So even though the course itself is going to go on hiatus, on October 31st, which would have been the next session, we'll be here. We'll just do from 5:00 p.m. Pacific. We'll be here and we'll flip on the cams and the mics, and if anyone wants to talk about absolutely anything, Steph and I will be here, and it'll be just absolutely open. So if you want to talk about any one of the lessons, any one of the tools, if you got a particular business issue that you're struggling with, if you want to talk about just anything, it's going to be totally open, and that'll be October 31st. November 2nd, so a couple of days later. I haven't talked at all about face-to-face today, our sponsor, one who sponsored this whole thing. But the new release is in final, and will be released early next week. And I'm so confident in that I'm committing to a November 2nd, 1 p.m. first look. I'm going to spend 30 to 60 minutes, and I will walk you through not only what the features are, which quite frankly are extraordinary, but what you'll also see is how they align with your aspirations. If you do any kind of meetings, if you do any kind of online teaching, if you just talk to your mother from time to time, for goodness sake, then and if you do larger things, I know that some people out there that are talking to hundreds or want to talk to hundreds or even thousands of people. And so what we want to do there is share our view of your aspirations, and then we want to show you how the product itself has been designed to beautifully help you grow your business and support your aspirations. So that'll be November 2nd. I'll let you know the coordinates in an email. John. So my friend John, who is in Toronto, has been one of those people. He's got arrows in his back because he's been working with the early versions of Face-to-Face Beta 2, and has just been getting bruised and dinged and all the rest of that stuff as the technology has worked or not. Anyway, yeah, I'm totally sure, John, and I really appreciate your support and your loyalty and all your time and effort in it. All right, credits. Hey, listen, I really want to give a big thank you and a big round of applause to Stephanie Gorczynski. She's right here.
Thank you.
Out of the way. I'm just going to say, Stephanie, this is a huge experiment for me to share the stage with anybody else. I think you've been absolutely fabulous, not only on screen and having the courage to share some of your stories and some of your experience, but also behind the scenes before the shows when we talk over some of this stuff as we get ready, and then also during the shows, letting people. Supporting people who are in chat who have questions. So I just want a big thank you to you. And I know everyone else is out there. You can't hear them, but they're applauding and cheering madly.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful for this opportunity. And I'm telling you, Alex, I am just happy to be able to share a little bit of the magic that you've given me in our time together. And if I can help, it's always been if I can help people avoid the pitfalls that I've gone through, or if I can help steer them, and if I can help support what you're doing, because you help me so much with that, your power, your love of this, your love of leadership, your love of business leadership, and us to be able to co-collaborate and help put new business leaders on a good path.
And the love of the community, right? That's what this is all about.
Such a gift, yeah.
Love of this community, this worldwide community of people who are doing the same things we are, trying to take that creativity and turn it into a little engine that sustains them, sustains their family, builds for their future, puts their kids in college, and at the same time is just at the heart of their communities worldwide. I mean, I just, all you people out there, I love you, which is a nice segue into the final slide, which is to say thank you to all of you for showing up, for being here, and for supporting Steph's and my endeavor. This has been a wonderful experience, and we look forward to seeing you again next week, and we look forward to seeing you again in the new year and whatever else we're doing. I mean, this is not going away. All right. So with all that love and thank you and stuff out of the way, we're now ready to go into after hours. And so anyone else who wants to just join in the guest queue right now, come and say hi. Tell us where you're at. Good. No one in the guest queue right now. So,
well, I also wanted to say, what this community has done, and it fascinates me, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it, is that before I met you, I was struggling with my voice as an innovator. And it's not just food. You guys know I do food, but there's a lot of things that I seek to do. And I love innovating food. It's like this cool thing that I do, but I'm constantly future looking. And I think that as a business person, as an entrepreneur, you kind of are doing that, and you are doing that. And so to all of you who are maybe a little insecure about these weird feelings that maybe you can't quite place in innovation, or you can't place in that future forward, I have this idea, I haven't seen anything like it, but I feel weird for putting it out there. You're supposed to do that. And thank you for joining us, because that's what this is all about. And Alex encouraged me, he kept saying, maybe you didn't understand vegan ice cream when you came on board, but you got me with that first ice cream example. And it was just a matter of us having a conversation, and you told me that I could do it. And I was like, you know what? I can. And this is the guy to help me do that. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. All right, listen, let's bring in Daniel. And by the way, I'm seeing someone say, I was really looking forward to the cash flow sessions that were to be next, suggestions. And I think Tom down in Texas, Tom in Texas. By the way, how's Kathy, Tom? And I haven't talked to you for quite a while. I miss our conversations. So Tom just reminded me that cash flow course is on. I think there's something on Udemy. I'd totally forgotten about that. But
Udemy, I believe is a paid service. So what we're doing with this obviously is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Is it paid, Tom? Is it still paid?
I think Udemy is like Skillshare, isn't it?
It's some of it's. I put some free stuff up there. I had some paid stuff. I actually hate the platform Udemy, and so I hate it. And they started off great 5 years ago, and then they just totally went their own way. And but anyway, take a look at Udemy there if you're interested in the cash flow course. If it's too expensive, whatever, let me know. And it's free.
Oh,
it's free.
Okay.
Free. Glassey, cash flow, Udemy. There you go. Let's bring in Daniel from Buenos Aires. I can't remember now, but it's Argentina for sure. There he is.
Buenos Aires, Alex and Steph. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are things?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I've been away for a while. I have other responsibilities. I'm running a school, a German school here in Argentina, and it's the biggest one. And I had a team meeting in Lima, Peru for the last 2 weeks. So I'm just back from it.
Wow. And so because you've got a manufacturing business as well, Daniel, don't you?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
My reason d'etre to be here is because I run a manufacturing operation for rubber blinds and awnings. Okay.
Right.
And this is what actually pays the bills, because the other job is actually an ad honorem job.
It's a volunteer job, and so you're doing the blinds, and then you run the largest German school in Argentina.
Yeah, that's true. I'm the president of the board.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
And why did you
1,600 students?
Wow! And are you doing any online work?
Excuse me?
Are you doing any of your teaching in the German school? Is any of it online, or is it all in-person classes?
No, that's presential. You have to be there, okay? It's a normal school. It's an Argentinian school, but it also does the German school system, okay? So that allows you to enter German universities without any issues.
Oh, I see. Sehr gut, sehr gut.
Dankeschön.
Well, I'm just wondering if you could use the face-to-face technology. There's a lot of educators. In fact, there was someone just yesterday up in, I'm not sure where in Canada, but a university taking a look at this face-to-face technology because they're trying to reach out to their students in different ways. You know, not just distance learning, but just even for professors who are teaching in the live classrooms. Occasionally, you want to be able to do things and not have to assemble the whole class. And so,
yes, you're absolutely right, Alex. The idea of my main thrust as I entered the board was to convert the traditional class, the seating class, into a virtual area where you share presential classes together with online classes, and you tend to bring people from the region, from the world, and in that regard, the German government is well advanced, and we get the tools and the support for it. So we are part of a network of 140 German schools around the world, and I happen to sit in one of the biggest in Argentina, actually the biggest in Argentina.
That's awesome. And you know what? Again, I was in a meeting yesterday for 2 hours with someone. It's supposed to be a 1 hour meeting. I showed them the next version of face-to-face, and this guy went, "Oh, I happen to belong to an organization that has 7,000 chapters." So you talk about, you got your 340 schools. He said, "Can we do presentations to all of the heads of those 7,000 chapters?" And I said, "Well, of course." And well, of course you can. So again, this technology.
I'm really looking into the tool that you've got here, the F2F. Actually, it's still on the beta version, but all in all, in Argentina, we've got something like 26 German schools. It's not a bilingual school, or most of them are not bilingual schools, but these are schools that would really benefit from the assistance that we, the biggest schools, could provide to the interior of the country. Okay, so we get German professors, we get German coordinators, etc. And in that regard, we could eventually share sessions or classes together with people, say, 2,000 kilometers away from here, like you and Steph do with F2F here in when you're assisting us. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's a game changer. This sort of thing is a game changer. The paid platforms are very expensive and they require you to rely on very fast internet connections. But if you manage to do something which is available to everyone, even on a 4G kind of cell technology, then you've got the world at your feet. What I say.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you something.
Ah, you just disappeared.
Yeah. So this is.
Oh, what's that? Oh, I see it now. I cannot read without my lenses.
Yeah. So this is a.
That's great.
This is just my normal Android phone, and I could have run this entire course from my phone. The video might have been a bit more shaky, but it's got great cams on it. It's got all the processing power. And we don't use the face-to-face technology. Does not use, as you say, doesn't need that super high bandwidth stuff that some of those other really expensive things do. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad you're looking into it. And next week, the next release is going to be just a huge step up from what we're. This is actually much better than some of the other stuff that's already out there, and
I tell you something, and please don't take it badly, but I'm a very big fan of Macintosh and Apple and so on. And to me, up until now, the best platform was FaceTime.
Right.
Okay. What runs on Macs and iPhones, well, that's very quick, that's very responsive, and but it's restricted to people with Mac, and it's only 3% of the market or 2% of the market. So it leaves a number of people outside of what we want to achieve. Okay, so it's to bring education and a way forward for people who are really interested in it. I'm not an evangelist or anything like that. I just want people who are interested in it to get the information and to get the tools that they need to progress. That's all. Exactly.
Hey, you and I, Daniel, are overdue for a chat, and so I'm going to send you. I'll send you an email. I know there's at least two things I want to talk to you about, and one of them has to do with a book. So I want to talk to you about that.
You owe me that. And I owe you the wine.
Yeah, well, okay. So I'm just making a note. I'll send you an email, and you and I will connect next week.
All right.
And get on the phone. Yeah. Hey, it's great to see you. Did you have a question, or you're just dropping in to say hi?
No. Actually, I was doing my homework, okay, on my side. But the issue was that I got stuck with this cost of acquiring customers sort of thing. It's very difficult for me because most of that job is done by myself as business owner. I tend to get new customers, but how do I price that? How do I put a $sign in front of whatever I'm doing? Yeah. Okay, so if I have to prorate my time, it's gonna be very difficult. I mean, the customer may be completely. I can be overwhelmed by the cost of the numbers that I get if I did that. So how do you really calculate the cost of acquiring customers? Is something that goes on top of your new business model. And I really want to know how to calculate that. So that's my job for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, I think it's a fairly simple job. And what I would do as a starting point is I would take a look at what I was paying myself. Like, what is the company paying you? That's the first thing. Yeah. The second thing is I'd figure out how much time I was spending on new customer development. And so if I'm paying myself, $4,000 a month, and half of my time is going to acquiring customers, then I would use that half of that $2,000 a month as the base cost for acquiring customers. Then I would divide in the number of new customers that I get every month. What you end up with is a very, very rough cost of acquisition. Some people who are sole practitioners don't like to do that, because what it does is oftentimes it makes a big number. Like, it's like, yikes, I'm actually costing me a lot to acquire a new customer. And what I would say to a business owner who has that experience is that, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Maybe you should be trying to find someone who you could be paying less to, and then going to, right? Because what's happening is that if you're acquiring customers, you're working in the business and not so much working on the business. So that would be a starting point. And then that, to me, would be the starting point for the discussion as to what do I do with that number? Do I hire someone?
Sorry for the interruption, Alex. But my main concern has to do with the recurring customers, okay? Because what I have here is a customer base which is not growing too much, just because my recurring customers keep me so busy that I don't really have personal time to develop the customer base further on, okay? So I may apply, say, your $2,000 per customer because I only got 2 new customers this month, okay? That's fine. Yeah. But these customers tend to stick with us for 5-10 years. My company is now 13 years old, and I can tell you I may be growing by 10% per year, but I also deduct more or less 10 or 15% of my customer base per year because I don't want to talk to them anymore. I mean, they turned out to be bad customers.
Right.
So I'm filtering them, if I can say
no,
that.
And so exactly. So what's happening is that business model, those 4 numbers in the business model, they actually, you should continue to use that, because what you want, you've got a huge lifetime value. When you know that a customer is going to come, when you get a customer, and they're going to last for 5 years. So if you're paying yourself, again, $4,000 a month, half of your time is spent finding new customers. You get 2, so it's costing you $1,000 for every new customer that you get. What's the value of that customer? And like, what are they going to give you over 5 years? It's a big number, right?
It's a big number. It dilutes the initial cost. It comes down by a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
But referrals that you get.
Yeah. So my point is this: is that if I wanted to grow a business like that, like, even though 10 or 15% of those customers you're going to throw away, well, that'll get factored into your lifetime value, right? You're going to have 5 customers are going to be sticking around for 5 years, and one of them is going to stick around for 12 months, and you're going to ditch that sucker. But then you now take five customers at 5 years and 1 customer 1 year, and you end up with whatever the number is. That factors into your lifetime value. If I were looking at that number, I would be going, wow, I should absolutely be hiring 1 or 2 or 3 salespeople, because, man, when they bring in somebody, that customer is there for life. The other thing I would say is that if you're too busy working in your business, satisfying your customer, I'll give you the same advice that I gave to, I don't think he's on right now, a young fella who I know very, very, very well, who's got a business in the food business. And he said, Dad, he said, I got a business right now. We are at capacity. We're struggling to grow, and we can't get to the marketing. Like, we just don't have the time in our day to get to the marketing. And so I said to him, what are you doing with your time? He goes, well, there's 2 or 3 days of the week where I make sandwiches full time. He comes in and he makes sandwiches, right? He makes 500 sandwiches in a day, and right. And so I said to him, well, what are you making? Like, how much are you taking out of the business? And he said some, number that was like this. And I said, what would you pay a sandwich maker to come in and make sandwiches? He says, I would pay that guy this. I said, well, if you're the guy making the sandwiches, then you should be making this much. You shouldn't be making this much. The business owner makes this much. The guy making the sandwiches makes this much. So you got a choice to make. I said to my son, either pay yourself the sandwich maker's salary and go hire a manager, be the manager, and hire a sandwich maker. Guess what? 7 days later, he had a sandwich maker, and he no longer complains about not having enough time, because now that's a whole other thing. So this is the thing about what we do in our businesses. We think we're the only one to do this and this and this and this, but we trap ourselves in this, and our business is no longer able to grow, right?
Yeah, delegating is a really big thing, and it is, especially at the rate that you're at. I mean, just listening to your story and how wonderful it is, and how you've got good problems even though there's still problems. And so if you can now see you've got this stability where you can start delegating to, we're not talking about hiring 30 people, but get some people that you feel confident either to tell your message or to handle some of your existing customers, so you can go out and start getting new leads. And you'll feel authentic about it, and you'll feel like more confident and more balanced and more at peace with what you're struggling with. I hired a sandwich maker, except she made ice cream, and I took 2 days off to be able to go and get more leads. And I'm telling you, it made all the difference. Training was a pain, but I hired one person, and that one person was my backbone. And then I got to be able to hire another person to do social media for me. So I got to be the entrepreneur, and I kept the business growing. And Alex knows the rest of that story, but it's integral. The gift of delegation, I'm telling you.
I mean, you've obviously thought about this, right, Daniel?
Yes. Been there, done that, and got the T-shirt. Okay, as you say in the UK or in the USA. The situation is as follows. I've done it full circle. Okay, I used to have 11 employees with me in my company, and it didn't turn out to be a walk in the park. Yeah. Okay.
It does.
So I decided, although it cost me a huge pain, but I decided to restart my company fresh, and I almost sacked everybody. And I am starting to hire people after I do my homework, like the business plan for next year, and see what sort of person I would certainly bring into my business. Because what I found was that by me playing the manager, customer satisfaction went down like a sinking ship. Yeah. All right. It's either that you get very poorly educated people in my place, or they are all Steve Jobs, and you have got to pay them like such. Okay, so that cannot be. Finding people in between is quite difficult, because the major corporations suck them out of the labor market. So for us, small and medium enterprises are left with the almost unemployable people. And I'm not meaning, I not want to play the bad guy in this place, but I've done it, and I've been there, and I know how this works. And it's unfortunate, and it may take the whole time of a whole new course on how to lead and how to manage people. Okay, and I don't want to do that with your kindness. But at the end of the day, it's quite an issue. It's quite an issue. So, Steph, I'm so glad to hear that you found your backbone. That's great. I couldn't still find mine.
I think, and when I say this now, understand that girl is no longer with me. And I've gone through renovations of employees, and I've gone through term change, especially in the culinary industry that I'm in. There's high turnover. Everybody's a number. But what I strive to do, and I go back to that aspiration, I go back to that affirmation, and I go back to the why, and I enroll people based on my why statement, my golden circle, all of that. And I find that I don't just have somebody that's skilled. I have somebody that believes what I believe. So if that janitor comes to the door, they can speak like Stephanie would speak. And that girl might have gone, but there have been, you should see my inbox. I have inboxes, and I actually have 3 email folders full of requests to come work for me. I just got one this morning from Australia asking to franchise my business. So because of being able to sell my why. So, but the thing is, you also, let's go back right to the drawing board. Curate the person that you are going to bring in because that is your baby, but don't be so careful with it that you can't go out and have an evening out, you know?
I think what Daniel's saying is that labor market there is tough.
Yes. Oh, of course. Of course.
And my son had the same thing. You know, he hired he hired 2 people. Like he's hired one, and then they didn't show up the second day. Like, right. And so he's got to go hire another one. And I think that this is, I'm not sure if I think it's a problem that, you know, us smaller businesses have always had, and it doesn't matter kind of, I mean, it's better or worse depending on the market that you're in. But you know, and that is when I started off the session 12 episodes ago, I said, you know, we need our creativity, not so much because we got to figure out how to create blinds, but it's because we have to figure out how to create a work environment that will attract the right people, pay them appropriately, keep them, right? And that's your challenge, right? Not making blinds and finding customers. You know how to do that.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you, Alex. The idea here is to find the right people who will follow you with your dream in the direction that you're setting.
Yeah.
And the only thing.
Some do, but it's like the course of the hairdressers, okay? You've got them 3 months with you, and once they feel that they are good enough, they open up a hairdresser across the street.
Yep.
More or less that happens to you as well. Obviously, you don't lose your core because the customers stick with you, but the low market, the ones that look only at the price, they cross the street.
Yeah.
All right, but
if you take a look
let's
at the chat,
leave it at that point because I don't want to bore people to my story.
But if you look at the chat, Daniel, what you see is you know, people are chiming in like, you're not the only one in the Southern Hemisphere with this problem. Like this is right. And Leanna says, you know, she has 3 employees, but she's going to go offshore for her next employee, right?
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
I think, the only thing I would say to that is, you know, in the food industry, we barely make minimum wage. And in Toronto, obviously in Canada, it's different than where you are. But we all struggle with that. Even where I am in position, if I have to go get a job, I struggle too, because I'm subject to the same terms that I need to hire somebody under. I can only make so much. And so when I look at that, obviously there's a little bit of a competition. But you know what I've done? I remember, especially last year, I was desperate for people to come and make ice cream. I had to scrap my why for a little bit because I just needed to find help. And that was very hard for me, but I was also able to expand my learning of how to delegate, how to be a leader in that environment, and how to figure it out. And sometimes I had to get back in the kitchen and make ice cream, but I made sure to try to prioritize as much time as I could for sleep and for making ice cream, as well to figure out how to get out of that kitchen to go get sales leads. And I'm telling you, every little movement you can make on this stuff, you expand your repertoire as a business owner, and that's a gift to you, and that's a gift to your customers, you know? So, and we're here to talk to you as well, you know? So if you have any concerns moving forward, that's what next Tuesday is for.
Okay, great. I just want to leave you with this little remark, and I promise you I leave you alone. When I used to have, say, blind installers, okay, they went, did the job, came back with the payment, everything was fine, so the project was closed within 1 week, 10 days. Now that I don't have in-house installers, okay, it's either that I outsource this or I do them myself. And this is the reason why I skipped my last 2 episodes of F2F Live. I was so tired, was broken, I couldn't just face the camera. But the point is that when I go out and happen to do one installation, it's not only that I close one project, I open another one, because my installation is the best sales process that I can show any client.
Right.
So I'm stuck with this drug, if I can call it like that, okay? I want to delegate, but at the same time, if I do it myself, because I'm the business, I transpire what I do,
Yep.
Customers get enchanted. Sorry, don't mean it because I'm doing it, okay? But people say, hey, this guy sold me. This guy produced it. This guy brought it to my place, put it in place, and I want the next one to be this guy as well.
Yep.
And it's hard to delegate. So if you get into this circle, it's difficult to get out of it, no? Isn't it?
Yeah, it's massively difficult.
Well,
I am the face of my brand. I have the same problem.
And
I want the ice cream that Steph does in the kitchen. I don't want somebody else, the sandwich maker. No, I want your son.
here's the thing, though, and we know as business, like I get that. And I've been consulting one-on-one for a long time, and I teaching one-on-one, and and live, and I get all that. But at the same time, one of the things that we need to do as business people is we have to understand what's best for our business. And I don't know what the solution is, and I know we could spend a lot of time talking about it. But what I would do is I would set a goal that within a certain time frame that you are not going to do that, and that you're going to figure out this is going to be your challenge. Yeah. And if I can help you, I'll send you an email. We'll talk. But
okay, we carry on.
Yeah. But that's the goal, because I grew a business from it was very, very quick. I had 60 people who were in my call center staff, and I could not pay what my competitors in the same city, in the same building, were paying. I was paying something like 15% lower, and yet we grew our business faster than anybody else. I held on to my staff. They were intensely loyal, and they knew that they were making 15% less. But I knew that as well, and we had to figure it out. And that was my. I had to do that. I had to figure it out. I couldn't afford that, and I couldn't afford them to go, and I couldn't afford not to have them, and I couldn't do it all myself, and all the rest of that stuff. Right. So anyway, we'll talk, but.
We'll talk later. Thanks for
you're in good company, Daniel.
Yeah, and I'll say, just finishing up, just remember that you are the asset. You are the asset to your business, and you are the asset to all of us. And however you can facilitate sharing yourself with us, and it's kind of like Steve Jobs, sharing him, and he just happens to make, like Simon Sinek would say, he just happens to make Apple products, but really it's the Apple vision. If you can share Daniel with us more, however you decide to do that, however we can make that happen, let's make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Daniel, thanks for popping in. We'll see you again. All right. So, wow, in the meantime, the sun went down up at the back window here. I'm turning off lights here.
You're going into early December hibernation, aren't you, over there?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Well, your son's down 3 hours ago, so.
Oh yeah, no, it goes down at around 6 o'clock. We have no hope over here. We're just trying to hold on. We don't know what's happening.
All right, listen. I think if no one else wants to come on, Steph and I are going to wrap it up. Thank you all for being here, and for putting in the investment of time. And we'll see you, I hope, on next Tuesday at 5 o'clock Pacific. I'll send you a note for that, and also would love to see you 1 o'clock on Thursday. If you're all interested in using the internet to communicate with people, then we got something very special for you next week. Steph, thanks again for helping out.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody for being here.
And I'll talk to you on Saturday morning.
Oh, you will. You definitely will. Okay. Everybody, study up, but not too hard, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Good night, everybody.